to see if you have healthy eyes. If you pass all 5 levels, your vision is perfect.
Let's do it.
All you have to do is pick one out of the 10 colors that is different from the rest. Starting off easy, you can clearly see that number 7 is lighter than the rest of them. 97% of people pass this stage, but it's about to get way harder. Okay, let's move on to medium. This one is a little more difficult and will require a little more attention. The correct answer is 2. Level advanced is even harder. Only 30% of people make it past this stage, so really focus and you'll see that the correct answer is 4. Superhuman. This level is really going to...
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? If you guys are brand new here to the channel, you guys don't know what we do, don't worry. I'm gonna break it down for you guys, man. We talk about the most scariest and creepiest videos on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos to TikTok videos, IG Reels, Facebook, anything weird, usual, and unexplained you can find right here on this channel. Just want to thank all my supporters, man, who's coming back to the channel each and every single day, watching the videos entirely, man, commenting down below, and most importantly, hitting that thumbs up button on each and every single video I drop. You guys help growing the seekers, you guys help growing the community. I greatly appreciate the support. Found this video for you guys today. Let's do what we do best, seekers. Stay with me, y'all. Let's seek the truth.
This man lost his life after his pet hippo turned on him. Marius Els adopted 5-month-old baby Humphrey and took him to live in his 400-acre farm in South Africa. When Humphrey was a baby, everything was fine, but a lot of people warned Marius how dangerous Humphrey can become when he gets bigger. Marius ignored everyone and treated Humphrey like a pet. He would even ride on his back for fun and showed zero fear of this hippo. But it wasn't long until Humphrey got bigger and he eventually reached 1.2 tons and attacked Marius's nephew and almost killed him. But that's not all. In 2011, Humphrey attacked Marius in front of his family and took his life. This all happened when Marius called Humphrey to eat, and according to Marius's family, Humphrey's demeanor was different on this day, basically showing signs of aggression. Marius believed that his pet hippo would never betray him, so he ignored all these signs. When he continued to call Humphrey out of the water to eat, Humphrey suddenly stormed out and attacked Marius, biting into his body multiple times and then dragging him into the water. And this all happened in front of his family, the same people that warned Marius about Humphrey. What's crazy is that even though hippos look super sweet and cute compared to other wild animals, they actually kill more people each year than any other mammal on this planet. Just something to keep in mind.
They wild animals, man.
The Buenos Aires mysteriously turned red, sparking fears among locals of a toxic spill, according to local reports. Local media say that authorities have collected water samples to investigate the discoloration of the river, which flows into the Rio de la Plata and is near an ecological reserve, according to Reuters. Initial findings from government agencies suggest that the substance may not be toxic, according to Reuters.
Morbid facts.
It's not toxic, so what's there? So why is the water red? Maybe it's a sign. It was coming, like, you know, back in the old days, but there's something going on, man. That's in Rio too. I'm definitely going to have to freaking check up on that, man. My sense is going off on that one.
Part 509. In 2016, Texas father Daniel Shaver was held up by police after he was seen pointing a pellet gun out of his hotel window. Several officers had rifles pointed at Shaver in the hallway as he attempted to comply with them, but their commands were confusing and contradictory, especially since Shaver was drunk. For example, they told Shaver not to put his hands down for any reason before telling him to start crawling towards them. As Shaver was crawling and begging for his life, he reached back to pull his pants up and was killed instantly by Officer Philip Brailsford, who later claimed he thought Shaver was reaching for a weapon. Brailsford was charged with second-degree murder and found not guilty, since the full unedited footage wasn't released until hours after his acquittal. Brailsford was rehired by the department and reimbursed for all the medical expenses he paid, while seeking treatment for the PTSD he claimed he acquired from the shooting. Because of this, Brailsford was medically retired and now collects a $2,500 pension every month.
Man, that's a chilling story. And that's how, man, me personally, I ain't playing with no freaking BB guns and stuff like that, because people can misinterpret it and a real situation could happen. So I don't play with that stuff. It ain't worth it. You saw firsthand. Trust me, man. You know what this is.
This is what they meant when they said, don't talk to strangers. In the early 1900s, a 10-year-old boy was playing in the woods when a tall man appeared and asked if he wanted to come back to his cabin for dinner. Totally caught off guard, the boy reluctantly agrees and begins walking. When they get to the cabin, the boy is relieved when he sees Paul, a family friend, sitting on the porch, so the boy happily goes inside. After they eat, the boy says thank you to the strange tall man, says bye to Paul, and then he leaves. He had only walked a few steps when he sees his family, along with Paul, running up the path towards him, frantically asking if he was okay. Confused, the boy says, I'm just fine, and he looks at Paul and he's like, why didn't you tell them I was with you at the cabin? And he points over his shoulder. Paul glances over the boy's shoulder and then narrows his eyes and says, you were kidnapped by a cult 3 days ago. No one's seen you. Terrified, the boy turns around to look at the cabin he just came from, and it's gone. All he sees is a dark forest that stretches for miles.
What the hell?
Scary games you should never play. This is the cat scratch game. The game requires 2 players. Player 1, lie your back on the floor with your head resting on player 2's lap. Player 2 will recite one of these 2 stories while rubbing player 1's temples.
I never play any of these scary games that get suggested.
When player 2 has finished the story, stand up and pull up player 1's shirt. Their back should be covered in red claw marks. Many swear that whatever scratched them was something much more sinister than just a cat.
This is why it's always a bad idea to go to graveyards at night. Urban explorer Frank from Franco TV explored a graveyard in Peru. As he explores the area, he sees a group of people far in the corner. Not knowing what's going on and worried for his safety, he hides in a tomb waiting for them to leave. 30 minutes gone by, they turn off the lights and begin to leave. Scared someone may still be there, Frank waits 30 more minutes. As he makes his way to the tomb, what he finds is disturbing. Frank finds a circle of candles and what looks like a voodoo doll next to a star. He also finds a container with unknown contents. As Frank tries to communicate with the spirits in that area, he hears laughing coming from one of the graves. Worried for his safety, he decides to leave and says he doesn't want any problems or to be followed by anything there. As Frank makes his way out, he sees something horrifying. What looks like a person can be seen peeking at Frank from the corner of the tomb. But when he checks around the tomb, there's no one there.
Somebody was definitely still
Friendly
there.
reminder that if you're ever in Churchill, Canada, it is illegal, if not very frowned upon, to lock your car. The reason is so that if a polar bear comes after you, hiding in someone else's car might be your only option. Not only are polar bears one of the few animals that will actively try to eat humans, since they can track prey from miles away, they'll smell you way before you see them. Remember, if it's brown, get on the ground. If it's black, fight back. Talking about bears. If it's white like an addict's nose, your casket finna be closed.
Okay, stay away from polar bears. Once again, noted. I didn't know there was a law, I guess, where it was at that you had to keep your car door open because if we could attack you like that, man. I keep thinking about that meme, bro. What the hell is a polar bear doing in Arlington, Texas?
This is a test to see if you have healthy eyes. If you pass all 5 levels, your vision is perfect.
Let's do
All
it.
you have to do is pick one out of the 10 colors that is different from the rest. Starting off easy, you can clearly see that number 7 is lighter than the rest of them. 97% of people pass this stage, but it's about to get way harder. Okay, let's move on to medium. This one is a little more difficult and will require a little more attention. The correct answer is 2. Level advanced is even harder. Only 30% of people make it past this stage, so really focus and you'll see that the correct answer is 4. Superhuman. This level is really going to test your vision, and I know these look identical, but if you look closely, number 4 is slightly different. And the final level, impossible. 92% of people failed this level, and the answer is 10. Were you right? Comment below.
Oh, man. I tried to pass that test. I think the last one, that's what really got to me, bro. But I basically passed it all up until the last one, man. Did you guys keep up?
Don't even get me started on Laura Karen. That teacher was sexually assaulting a 13-year-old boy since he was 11 years old, got pregnant with his baby, and then wasn't even arrested until the baby was 5. And as of today, she has been released from jail. If you've never heard of Laura Karen, she worked at Middle Township Elementary School. She was a 5th grade teacher, meaning that she primarily worked with 10 to 11-year-old students. And from 2016 to 2020, she was sexually abusing a boy who she had had as a student. She had also had his brother in her class. And obviously it was before this all came out, but he, his brother, and his sister, so 3 siblings, actually went to go live in her home for a period of time. And that was between 2016 and 2020, and that is when things got really bad for that boy. According to his sister, when that boy would go into the bathroom to take a shower, Laura would go into the bathroom and lock the door. Additionally, all of the siblings shared a bedroom in her house. However, in the morning when the 2 other siblings would wake up, they would notice that their brother wasn't there, and their brother was in bed with Laura. She had become friends with the parents of those siblings, and she was actually trusted to be a resource parent. In New Jersey, the term resource parent is a synonym for foster parent. But Laura took that trust and completely violated it. She violated their son, and she managed to get away with it for years until December of 2024. That is when she was arrested. I believe it was December 17th. It was found out because the child that she had was a son who looked a lot like the son who she sexually abused. And he looked a lot like the victim's father, and understandably so. And the victim confirmed to his sister that he was the father. She appeared in court today, Tuesday, January 21st of 2025. The judge has ruled that she can be released as her case continues.
A teacher gave a final exam where students had to draw and achieve a high score in the shortest possible time. While walking around the classroom, the teacher noticed one student drawing in an incredibly surprising and unconventional way. The student used a ruler and 2 pens to make their drawing perfectly identical to the reference image. What do you think about this?
This is how you can get full control over your body. If you're ever feeling really stressed or anxious, I got you. All you have to do is slowly blow on your thumb for 30 seconds like this. This will slow down your heartbeat and calm your nerves so you won't have to worry anymore. Next, if you ever wake up in the morning and your hand or arm has fallen asleep, all you have to do is shake your head and it will quickly go away. But if your leg falls asleep, all you have to do is wiggle your toes and your leg will be back to normal right away. If you're ever sick to your stomach and you want to get feeling better quickly, listen up. Squeeze down your left thumb like this to deactivate your gag reflex so you won't gag. And place your thumb right here on your wrist to get rid of your nausea. Finally, eating peanut butter before you fall asleep at night could change your life. It's scientifically proven that eating peanut butter before you fall asleep can help you fall asleep much faster. And it will also give you insanely vivid dreams.
A rare and mysterious illness is currently sweeping through a city in India, leaving patients suddenly paralyzed and unable to control their body. With what began as a child struggling to hold their pencil in January, has now escalated into a full-scale medical emergency. Over 170 reported cases, dozens in intensive care, at least 5 suspected deaths, and even teams from the WHO arriving in Pune to investigate. But here's what makes this illness so terrifying. It has what's referred to as the Russian roulette effect. You see, the bacteria that can trigger the paralysis is everywhere. It's found in contaminated food and water, and most people consume it at some point in their life without even knowing. But for reasons that scientists still don't fully understand yet, only in a small percentage of cases, this bacteria can trigger Guillain-Barré syndrome, which causes the immune system to go rogue, shutting down your body piece by piece. For example, last month, a school teacher noticed that our 6-year-old son couldn't hold his pencil properly, and within days, his legs and arms stopped working. He lost the ability to swallow, speak, and eventually breathe, requiring ventilator support. At that stage, you can think of it like having sleep paralysis while being fully awake. Now, because there is no cure for GBS, early intervention is critical, and that's why authorities have now set up special hospital wards, launched mass water testing, and called in the WHO in efforts to contain the outbreak and prevent more lives being put at risk. As the situation develops, I'll keep you guys updated.
This preacher
keep me up to date.
Paranormal in church. Let's watch it together.
Well, hey everybody, Pastor Aaron here. It's my pleasure just to announce that this Sunday will be open.
Oh! Oh nah.
Okay, we've been trying to do this announcement several times today already, and 3 times that podium back there has fallen over on its own, and it's stable. I mean, it's not wobbly at all.
Leave the church. I would leave.
It's kind of like
I'm hitting the jets.
Wow. That podium has been wobbling. Okay, so we
We checked the vent. There's a vent there. That is not an air duct that has any forced air at all, so it can't be wobbling from that. There's absolutely no breeze in here. You can see by the banner there.
Call Ghostbusters!
There's no air conditioning. It's these things, they're off. I don't know. So I'm just gonna sit here and watch it for a little bit, and we will see if it does it again.
Oh, nah, I'm leaving.
Nothing's moving. That hasn't been moving.
I'm leaving. You see that?
New.
He's still there?
Seriously, nothing else. There's no breeze. It's moving again.
It's time to go.
Oh yeah, I'm out.
Have
I'm
you ever
in the
seen a boarding
jets.
pass that's so big it could double as a billboard? Well, one man's oversized ticket has taken the internet by storm. This hilarious moment was caught on camera in an airport when a guy rolled up to the gate with what might just be the world's most dramatic boarding pass. Of course, it wasn't long before a very confused officer had to step in. While people who saw the huge boarding pass thought it was a joke, the passenger was completely serious. But as for the officer, he was trying his hardest to not crack up while keeping the situation serious. This lady just broke a Guinness World of Record by eating cotton candy. Meet Leia Shuckkeever, a speed eater extraordinaire who just devoured an insane amount of cotton candy in only 60 seconds, shattering the Guinness World Record. But the best part? When she was presented with the Grinchy treat, she had one simple question. Why is it green? David Wilson, the adjudicator, couldn't help but respond with a smile and said, "It's quite Grinchy."
That candy floss. Why is it green? It's quite grinchy. It is quite grinchy.
To break the record, Leia had to demolish at least 45 grams of this sticky sweet green goo in under a minute. And did she? Of course she did, leaving her with sticky fingers and a sticky face. But Leia isn't just about cotton candy. She's also set records for inhaling 19 chicken nuggets in a minute and 10 Jolly Donuts in 3 minutes.
Damn, speed eating? I couldn't do that, man. She broke all those records. Hey, she got a talent, bro. She's talented. Gotta give it that. I gotta get that to her.
We now actually know what happens when we die. In some of the biggest news of the century, we've now got evidence suggesting that your life carries on after you die, and it gets a lot crazier than that. Make sure you share this video with your friends and family, because you don't want to miss this. So an old woman was passing away, and as she died, they had her hooked up to a machine which was monitoring her brain. Now what scientists got from these scans after she passed away was these photos, which don't look like much right now. But what these show is that a part of the brain, specifically the part of the brain that processes memories and experiences, was still active after death for around 8 minutes. And this is crazy because years ago I made a video saying about the 8 minutes after death and how your brain is still active. They did tests before on a man who died and found similar things, but nothing as concrete as this. As I say, from these scans, it showed that the brain was still active for around 8 minutes after this woman passed away. And specifically that she was processing memories, i.e. her life, flashing before her eyes, a common term you've probably heard. So this suggests that when you pass away, your life does flash before your eyes. You get memory flashbacks and maybe relive parts of your life. It also links into the theory I've spoken about before and many people have said. Think about when you have a dream. Sometimes dreams can feel really real and time's different, time dilation of course. Sometimes you'll have a dream, it feels like an hour, but you wake up and it's been about 2 minutes. Well, the same might be happening in this 8 minutes after death. Reliving memories, what feels like days, weeks, but it's only in the 8 minutes. Or maybe even like a lucid dream, creating some sort of new reality. So what's to say you're not dead right now in that 8 minutes? This is all just a figment of your imagination.
What are the chances of two rivers?
That brings up a good point, man, especially at the end. That's like the simulation theory. That's what I got. But life, we heard before, you know, like your life flashed before your eyes. Guess there's some truth to that. We learning today.
2,000 miles apart, mysteriously turning blood red at the same time. And we don't know the cause for either. Worried residents in both Lima, Peru and Buenos Aires, Argentina have shared footage online reporting strong odors accompanying the discoloration. One local described the scene saying, "It looks like a stream of blood we have never seen it like this. Now, while we don't know for sure what's caused either yet, I wouldn't go as far as saying it's a scene from a biblical prophecy. I'll just leave that there for a second. Rather, in Peru, environmental experts believe that it could be caused by pollutants discharged from mines and drainage pipes flowing into the river. Despite this, local water supplier, Cinepal, assured the public that the water is still safe to drink. And they better be bloody right, because this river is one of the country's most important water sources. And then for the river in Argentina, authorities suspect the presence of aniline, which is a toxic substance used in dyes, and they believe that it could have been dumped there by local companies. But then again, if Jesus did want to come back, it's not a bad time.
Those freaking two rivers trying to reconnect it.
Susan Lewis and her daughter Jamie moved into a new home in Southern California, and shortly after moving in, Susan's new boyfriend Matt, he moved in as well. Also, Matt had a daughter named Marie, who was the same age as Jamie. A few weeks after moving in, Susan goes into the kitchen and she sees on the counter that a peanut butter jar had its lid off and had been turned on its side. Peanut butter seemed to be running out of the jar like it had been melted. So she figures one of the kids must have come in here and for whatever reason microwaved the peanut butter and then dumped it on the counter. And Jamie would say that she literally laughed at her mom, like, why would I do that? And Marie too is like, no, I didn't touch the peanut butter. And all four of them spend the rest of the day goofing around outside near the pool. Later that day, they find that there have been cans that you would keep in your pantry, like canned food, stacked on each of the steps leading upstairs. They also find that there have been random objects placed all over the house in strange patterns. Hairbrushes arranged in a star pattern on the counter. They open the microwave and find peanut butter jars and other random canned foods and stuffed animals from the kids' rooms in the microwave. The cleaning materials underneath the sink had been pulled out and arranged in a height line from shortest to tallest. They think that someone's invaded their house, so they run back out again, and no one's come near their property. Ultimately just kind of moved on. In the last couple of weeks that they ever stayed at this house, because they would leave, two major events occurred. The first one happened when Marie was home alone. She's sitting in the living room watching TV, and at some point the TV starts turning off and on. And the TV finally just turns off. She can't get it on. She reaches for the remote. The remote flies off the table as all the pictures on the walls just start one by one falling off the wall. She takes her camera in her hand and kind of turns it and just starts taking pictures of the room. There are these weird orbs of light that are very clearly in the room with her. The second major event that occurred in those final 2 weeks, Jamie was in her room and she starts hearing pounding on her door. She started filming this pounding on her door.
Seen this firsthand.
And so she didn't open the door, and she went back onto her bed, and she just sat there in the fetal position for 3 hours, listening to something smashing nonstop into the door. She opens the door, and there's no one there. But the door on the outside, where the knocking had been happening, there's this huge dent and divot in the door. She sees that now there is a frying pan sitting in the hall that has a toilet paper roll completely on fire. Grabs a sweatshirt and she smothers the fire. And she goes outside defeated and just sits on the front steps of her house. Jamie explains what happens and that was it. And so they barely packed up and they left that house. It didn't sell. Susan literally went bankrupt. And soon after they left the neighborhood, their neighbors left the neighborhood, and 5 other neighbors in their immediate vicinity all left. All of the houses did not sell. They are all vacant.
Never take the bus alone. It could save your life. A 17-year-old boy was on his way home from the gym and decided to take the bus. The boy unfortunately missed the first bus, so he had to wait for the second one, and it was getting pretty late. The boy was just hanging out in that little bus shelter until a man with thick clothing started walking awkwardly towards him. The boy felt pretty creeped out, but decided to just focus on his phone and hope he would walk away. But then the man took a seat right next to the boy and reached his arm out to grab him. The boy grabbed his backpack and ran as fast as he could to the next stop. He thought he was safe until he saw that same man's face pressed up against the window of the bus shelter. The deranged man lunged at him again but missed and fell to the floor. There was blood pouring out of his face and the boy called 911. The cops explained to the boy that the man was on prescription drugs. And upon looking through the man's wallet, they found a picture of the man's son which looked just like the boy.
Be careful at the bus stops, man. The weirdos out there.
If you're alone right now, don't watch this video. In the winter of 2018, a man who was living alone in the mountains wakes up to find a red ball sitting on his front yard. He assumed the only neighbor he had must have kids, and so he kicks the ball over the fence, goes inside, doesn't think anything of it. That night, he wakes up to the sound of kids laughing outside of his window. He goes outside to check on them because it's the middle of the night, and there's no kids anywhere, but that red ball is back on his property. So he picks it up, brings it in his house, and goes back to bed. The next morning, he goes over to his neighbor's house to let them know that their kids were out in his yard in the middle of the night. But it turns out his neighbor is just some old man who lives alone, and there aren't any kids anywhere in the area. That night, he wakes up again to the sound of kids on his property, and when he looks outside, there's no kids, but that red ball is back on his property. Panicked, he runs downstairs to make sure the one he brought in is still inside, and it's gone. He checked every window and door, and everything was still locked. It didn't make any sense. He decides to look out the window one more time, and off in the distance is some weird, stiff figure watching him.
Is he hallucinating?
This is one of the world's most haunted dolls, Okiku. Said to be so haunted that if you even glance at this doll, you could become cursed. Now, the story surrounding this doll is actually terrifying. Back in the 1918s, Okiku was purchased in Japan for a man's younger sister. Tragically, after a year of owning this doll, the little girl passed away from the flu. The family then decided to create a shrine for her, placing the large doll inside of it as a display. Now, originally, this doll had a short bob-cut haircut. And only a few weeks after being placed inside of the shrine, the doll's hair grew, way past her shoulders. And in the 1930s, the family moved away. The doll was then given to a museum, where her hair continues to grow to this day. Up next is a doll
Really?
Lily. It was made in the 1980s with real human hair. After seeing a Facebook post, Zach Bagans decided he wanted to try out this doll and see what it was all about. Terrifying thing is the last person that did this had massive nightmares and ended up getting into a tragic accident. It's also said that this doll talks, not in a normal sweet doll voice, in a very deep and demonic tone. Now, this doll Lily currently resides at the Zach Bagans Museum, which is probably a good thing because most people probably shouldn't be around this doll, due to the fact that it's made with human hair. It's caused mass tragedies, on top of it being so haunted that it can literally manipulate your nightmares. I'm good on all the dolls.
This is why you should always keep your phone charged. A girl named Marissa came home from school at around 3 p.m. She walked in the door and told her mom that some random number kept calling her all day. Her mom told her the person may have the wrong number and just to ignore it. Marissa said okay and begins to do her homework. A couple hours later, she receives a phone call from the same number. Marissa answers it this time and says, "Hello?" The man then says, "We finally found you. Don't worry, bunny." Marissa begins to panic and tells her mom what just happened. Her mom's face goes blank and says, "What did the man just call you?" Marissa says, "He called me bunny." Her mom yells and says, "Grab your stuff, we need to leave." Marissa, confused, packs her things and gets into the red car. Her mom begins driving fast and turns on the radio. The radio says, "The baby named Marissa who was kidnapped in the hospital 10 years ago has been found and police are searching for a red car." Marissa looks at the woman and says, "Who are you?" The woman looks back and says, "You can call me mommy."
So she was kidnapped as a kid. And then she tried to take her on the run. Okay. It's a good thing, like you said. That's why you always better keep your phone
Crazy
charged.
history you were not taught in school. Deep within the earth lies the remains of a planet that crashed into us billions of years ago. Muammar Gaddafi submitted a proposal to the UN suggesting that Switzerland be merged into Germany, Italy, and France. A shipwreck from 1773 was found just 7 feet under the World Trade Center's foundation during the cleanup aftermath of 9/11. Genghis Khan caused so much devastation that the vegetation regrowth from the lands he conquered led to a notable decrease in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. This man ran a mile in under 4 minutes during a time where it was believed if you did that, your heart would explode. But now today, thousands of people have done it. George Washington's favorite food was hoe cakes, which was a type of pancake that was made out of cornbread. Alexander the Great conquered the known world, but never attempted to attack Sparta. Actual knights fought in World War I. Napoleon never exhibited any signs of PTSD despite being engaged in warfare for over 2 decades.
With today being St.
Oh, so that means he was about it, bro. Or 2 decades and no signs of PTSD? I guess Napoleon loved being in the trenches, bro.
Here's 3 ways to survive the leprechaun from the Leprechaun movies. Number 1, don't go anywhere near his gold. It sounds easy, I know, but my boy is obsessed with gold, and he'll do absolutely anything to get it, including unaliving you. So if for some reason you see a massive pot of gold on the side of the road, just keep driving. Don't even look at it for too long, because if he assumes that you're going to try and steal his gold, you're cooked. Number 2, if you see a rainbow, do not follow it, because what's at the end of a rainbow? A massive pot of gold. And who's also following that rainbow trying to get that massive bag, that massive pot of gold? The leprechaun. So if you follow that rainbow, you're gonna run directly into it. Yeah, he he's small, but he also has magical powers, and as I said before, will do absolutely anything to get his gold. And number 3, for some reason you don't listen to any of my other rules, just listen to this. If you have a 4-leaf clover, it will completely take over his body and not allow him to then use his magical power. That is the only thing that can save you from the leprechaun. Yes, he's small, and probably pretty slow because his legs are small, but if you don't have a 4-leaf clover, his magical powers can hit you if you're running. So the only way to really defeat the leprechaun is by having a 4-leaf clover. But to be honest, I don't know why you would go out of your way to even outsource the leprechaun and try to go one-on-one against him anyway. Like and follow for more.
Get cooked if you don't have it.
Part 471. A 71-year-old man from Africa has lived in total isolation for 55 years to stay away from women. At the age of 16, he locked himself into a home secured by a 15-foot fence to avoid any possible interactions with females. He reportedly suffers from gynophobia, an irrational fear of women. A 26-year-old monk from the UK has died after traveling to Turkey for a Brazilian butt lift. The official cause of death was a fat embolism after some of the injected fat apparently entered her bloodstream. Many health professionals consider BBLs to be barbaric procedures because of the significant health risks associated with them that are seldom discussed. In July of 1518, a French woman ran from her house and started dancing fervently in the street. Within a week, a few dozen others had joined her, and by the next month, hundreds fell victim to this dancing plague. They danced completely uncontrollably and seemingly without reason, often for days on end, until they collapsed from exhaustion or even died from heart attacks or strokes. Up to 400 people in total died before the phenomenon suddenly stopped. It's widely believed that the dancing plague was caused by stress-induced hysteria or poisoning from a wheat fungus called ergot.
The longest things in the world. Longest English word. Pneumonic ultramicroscopic silico-volcanoconiosis. Longest YouTube video, 596 hours. Longest song, Rise and Fall of Bossa Nova, 13 hours long. Longest film, Logistics, over 35 days long. Longest day of 2021, Monday the 21st of June.
If you're ever attacked by a chimpanzee, here's what you need to do to survive. Rule number 1, remember that you're probably gonna die. You see, chimps share around 98% of human DNA, meaning that they're very smart, but also more aggressive. They're like humans, but with less empathy, and we barely have any to begin with. Chimps are reportedly 2 to 4 times stronger than humans and look like you would if you had stuck to your New Year's resolution. And now for some actual advice. Rule number 1, do not punch them. Chimps are so aggressive that they love to attack and tear off human faces, hands, and genitals. So unless you want to get your hands torn off like Captain Hook, try throwing an object or kicking if you can. But that probably won't work anyway, and your best bet is swimming away. Chimps have super low body fat, so they're pretty bad at swimming. So you better Michael Phelps your way out of there, and if you can't find a nearby river, make sure you tell Iron Man that I say hi.
Okay. Stay away from chimps, man. That may seem... You know what this is, man. I consider myself
Crazy
expert
things
level.
happening in the world right now. Chick-fil-A is the #1 preferred first date spot for American men according to a new survey. The top 5 spots are all actually fast food. The same survey said that 66% of women would prefer having a first date at a McDonald's. Doctors are now warning to not sit on the toilet for longer than 10 minutes. 5 of the top firms in the Plastic Pollution Alliance made 1,000 times more plastic than they cleaned up. A new AI tool was built to sound like an elderly grandmother to waste the time of phone scammers. Salesforce is hiring 1,000 salespeople to sell AI tools that replace salespeople. The first known emperor penguin to reach Australia was found on a beach. A woman married a man who had forgotten they had broken up after he had gotten a concussion. Yale is now teaching a class on Beyonce's political and cultural impact. A sick man was brought to a bank on his hospital bed to confirm his identity. 2 drug dealers are in jail for 12 years after losing their bag of drugs on a train and then reporting it missing.
Let's talk.
I want to talk about those freaking date facts, man. I did not know they said for the most #1 spot for American men was Chick-fil-A, but that other one was Cap talking about how same woman or when they first date at freaking McDonald's. I haven't met one yet. It's like, yeah, a first date, first link up, we can chill at Mickey D's. Put me on, bro.
About this picture. Now, the picture was captured by Daniel Hill, who was the custodian at Driftville Elementary. If you look to the back of the photo, you can already kind of spot that something is very off. What the custodian had thought was maybe a student who had stayed after school and was trying to prank him in the dark turned out to be something much worse. Daniel Hill was attacked in that hallway and did not survive the attack, with his body being found the following morning by a student. It is described to be found on the floor with lacerations so severe he no longer had eyes and his nose was missing. So police eventually turned back to the final photo that was taken on his phone to try to enhance it to figure out who would have done this. This was about the clearest version that they could make of that photo, and the man seen here was never found, and his motive towards Daniel was never known.
I look like a damn monster.
The brutal attack of Travis the chimp.
The chimp killed my friend! And the police come! With a gun! Please hurry up! He's killing my girlfriend!
Who's killing your friend?
Chimp, my chimpanzee!
Oh, your chimpanzee is killing your friend.
She's dead, he ripped her apart!
He ripped what apart? Her face?
Everything! Shoot him!
Travis was a 200-pound male chimpanzee that appeared in many movies and TV shows. But on February 16th, 2009, Travis finally snapped. The woman that you heard on the phone was Sandra Harold, the chimp's owner. And the woman being attacked was Charla Nash, one of Sandra's friends. Sandra tried to save her friend by bashing the chimp with a shovel and stabbing him in the back with a butcher knife, but that only made him more angry. Travis ripped off Charla's eyelids and tore off her nose. The chimp then scalped her, gouged out, and ate her eyeballs before chewing off her hand. Shortly after, the police showed up and executed Travis by gunfire.
That's insane, man. People need to stop keeping wild animals as pets. It never ends well, man, from these clips I've watched together with you guys.
Remember that time a man-eating camel terrorized a town in Arizona? Crazy, right? It was a villain that encouraged a cowardly dog, and it started with the government. You see, they realized the hump jockey's a way better desert option than horses, and when the U.S. was trying to make like Bianca Censori and head west, well, that started the Camel Corps, where America thought it was a good idea to weaponize the dromedary variety. It got abandoned, and the camels were auctioned off. Some ended up in zoos, and some were straight up roughing it in the American Southwest. The story goes, one day in 1883, a mysterious beast murked the rancher's wife. An eyewitness described it as a giant, tall, red-looking beast with a demon riding shotgun. Speaking of shotgun, after several sightings and one incident where it nearly erased a cowboy that had lassoed it, they decided it was time to bear arms before things got grisly. 5 men took a shot and none of them hit, but by the pure power of plot armor, one of them managed to knock something off. But when they went to investigate, it was a skull. A fresh human skull that still had some hair on it. For the next several years, there were stories of this homicidal red quadruped hoovering a headless demon attacking people, which actually is a Courage episode now that I think about it. The story spread until one day farmer Mizzou Hastings looked outside and saw the steed of Satan eating out of his yard. He one-shot it and realized not only was this mysterious beast one of the leftover camels from the failed Camel Corps, there was a life-deprived former human strapped to the camel, so tight that it actually scarred the body. To this day, we have no clue how that man past tense what he was doing to get stuck there, or how long the camel was carrying a decapitated, decomposing was on his back, but some say it could have been up to a decade. The more you know, ain't you glad you asked?
These are scary
10 years?
in each state, part 4. Up first is La Mala Ora. La Mala Ora is located in New Mexico and is a very scary and dangerous demonic spirit. She walks around lonely roads after midnight and terrorizes those who travel alone. People who have seen her say she appears as a large black lump, constantly moving and changing shape. But the scariest part about La Mala Ora is that anyone who lays eyes on her will be driven completely insane. She tries to hypnotize and paralyze anyone who encounters her. Some people even believe the devil himself is scared of La Mala Ora. People who live in New Mexico also say that she really never appears in human form. But if she does, it means somebody you know or yourself is going to die soon. So if you live in New Mexico, I feel bad for you.
Stay away from the model or I'll avoid that in New Mexico.
Part 441. While working in his garage in 2012, Chicago man Dante Autolo accidentally shot a 3-inch nail directly into his skull. But he had no idea the nail had entered his brain until he started feeling nauseous 36 hours later, and a dozen doctors were completely stunned when they saw his x-rays. The nail was surgically removed, and Dante miraculously made a full recovery. After his meth-addicted wife spread a false rumor that he was a pedophile, Australian father Bradley Lyons was kidnapped and attacked by a vigilante group of pedophile hunters. He was tortured with lighters and knuckle dusters and threatened with a shotgun in his mouth for not confessing to his crimes. At some point, the group poured hot water over Bradley's head and cut off his hand with a chainsaw since he continued to deny the false allegations. They then left him in the trunk of a hot car for 21 hours before executing him in the woods. Several people were sentenced to years in prison for the horrific murder, including Bradley's wife.
Man, nigga, that's a dark story. Goes to
What
show
did
the
Diddy
extent
just
of
do
lies,
now?
dude.
It's really not looking good for him, is it? Mr. Diddler, we all know him. He was in the headlines massively a few months ago when all of the stuff was breaking out. We had all the logs leaked of the alleged celebrities that were attending these parties, along with many other things happening. Now though, you probably know this guy, Luigi Mangione, who has been a massive talking point for the last few weeks. I'm sure everybody knows what he did, and there's been a lot of devise on social media, so a lot of people supporting him, a lot of people not supporting him, obviously. But Diddy, it's not happy, you see. It's really not happy. He said, and I quote, "It's not fair I'm getting so much hate while in the locker, while Luigi is getting a load of love and praise." I'm sorry. Essentially, he said that he is innocent, there's a lot of people that know he's innocent, so why isn't he getting a load of love and attention while inside? But it gets crazy, he said he is literally raging at this, so he's really not happy, as far as actually throwing temper tantrums in the jail because he's getting a lot of attention. I don't even know what to say, to be honest, but yeah, know your thoughts, and as always, I'll keep you updated.
Who cares if you're getting more attention, man? Y'all both in jail. It doesn't make a difference anyway. The outcome's gonna be the same. Diddy worried about the wrong things, man.
Well, that country is not Egypt, it's Iran.
Hello, my friend. I wouldn't say Iran is the oldest country in the world, but that itself is quite a strange claim to make. What do we mean when we say the oldest country? Is it when the modern concept of a nation-state was established? Is it the length in time a political identity has held power over a region? Or is it simply how long a region has maintained a certain name? The oldest country is usually determined based on one of these interpretations. For example, some argue that Egypt, with its ancient civilizations dating back over 5,000 years, is the oldest. However, this is based on the continuity of the region's historical identity rather than its modern statehood. Others point to China, citing the unbroken lineage of dynasties and cultural continuity. Yet again, this reflects a cultural or civilizational perspective rather than a political one. When it comes to the idea of modern nation-states, countries like France and England, which established centralized governments and national identities in the medieval period, often enter the discussion. As for Iran, its claim stems from the Achaemenid Empire founded by Cyrus the Great in 550 BC. I think the region's cultural and political identity has remained remarkably consistent over those many centuries, surviving invasions, dynastic changes, and modern shifts. But the truth is, defining the oldest country depends entirely on how we interpret history. Is it the continuity of culture, the endurance of a name, or the longevity of a political system? Each perspective brings its own answer to the question.
Clip circulating on social media, I just couldn't believe it. Here you have a man who's now known to be one of the most prolific sexual predators in Hollywood, discussing what seems to be a how-to guide on how to groom a child on national television. I know that people are going to say, oh, it was a different time and blah, 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 this was more acceptable. But I don't think that this ever should have been acceptable. I mean, I can't remember a single television show that I watched that had any sort of content that reflected a value like the one that's being presented here in this clip. Especially coming from the mouth of a guy like Bill Cosby. It's kind of like Jeffrey Epstein giving you dating advice. But I'm just going to play the rest of the clip for you now. This is just really disturbing.
A hero nun who risks her own life saving orphan children from being exploited. Final Vow is one of those movies that is going to leave you at the edge of your seat. Sister Anne Marie works at an orphanage in Mexico, and one day out of the blue, a 15-year-old girl gets adopted. She immediately becomes suspicious, and she is convinced that the couple that adopted the young girl is going to do something sinister. Her suspicions are correct, and she will stop at nothing to make sure that that young girl is saved along with many others. Final Vow shows the scary reality of what is going on in this world and how easily vulnerable children can be sold and exploited. On the film's website, there is an AI feature, and you can chat with the cast to answer any kind of questions you may have and learn more about the film. If you're like me and always has a bunch of unanswered questions, then this feature is going to be really fun for you. Make sure to check out Final Vow on https://finalvow.com, and once you watch it, comment down below and let me know what you think.
The man behind me built a homemade cage for his head to stop smoking. He then gave his wife the keys and only she could open it during meals. The man's name is Ibrahim Yücel. He is a Turkish man. He was smoking
Eating 2 packs daily for 26 years and decided he wanted to stop one day. So he built a homemade cage out of copper. In my opinion, this thing looks like a torture device. And he didn't just wear this at home, he wore this outside, going to work, running his errands. He was dedicated to stop smoking. He started doing this in 2013, and I believe he is still doing this to this day. The only thing he could get through the cage was a straw from a bottle of water and maybe some crackers. He designed it in a way that you couldn't even sneak a cigarette inside there. He definitely knew he would be having withdrawals and planned this accordingly. Down here is a picture of his wife unlocking the cage for him, and over here is more of a close-up photo of the cage. And then here's a picture of him with the cage off right here. He's talking on the phone, I'm assuming he's having a meal and he's just chatting away. But honestly, props to him. If it works, it works. I'm not sure if I have any followers from Turkey, but if I do, let me know if you've seen this guy around. And let me know what you think about this story.
Weird facts.
Have you seen that before?
If you're coughing uncontrollably, just raise your hands above your shoulder and it will stop. Did you know that TikTok doesn't let you type Area 51? When crossing the street at night, turn on your phone's flashlight and point it toward oncoming traffic. If you think you're being followed, turn right 4 times, since you'll get to the same place they shouldn't be following you anymore. If they do, you might be in trouble. Don't walk down the stairs with hands in your pockets. If you type your big forehead, you get a warning. Blue color attracts mosquitoes and 2 times more than any other. Strawberries can also be white and yellow. Some even can taste like pineapples. You can't unalive yourself by holding your breath. If you search these coordinates on Google Maps, you will find a man dragging a body. Follow for more.
Really?
Nobody in the entire world can visit this island. Okay, so majority of Americans don't know about the Forbidden Island in Hawaii that is owned by one single family and nobody could visit. The island is called Niihau, and it's extremely different from anything else in the United States. There is only a population of 70 people, and they have no access to paved roads, telephone service, no running water, and the majority of the island lives off welfare checks from the US government. And with such harsh living conditions, it makes you wonder why anybody would even live on this island. And the real question is, if there's nothing to hide here, why can't anybody visit? Well, this rule that doesn't allow any outsiders onto the island was actually written into the agreement by the natives when they sold it to the Robinson family, all the way back in 1864.
Way back.
The Robinson family bought the island for $10,000 in gold, which is $325,000 today. And the crazy thing is that this family still owns the island. The Robinsons are also very focused on preserving the Hawaiian culture on this island that the natives did, so they go to church every Sunday, banned long hair for men, and kept the official Hawaiian language. But my whole opinion on this island is that if nobody can visit there and there's only 70 people on it, there's gotta be some crazy stuff going on there, right? There's just no way these 70 people are just completely normal living on this isolated island that nobody could visit. Let me know your thoughts on this, and also let me know if you've ever heard of this.
These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. There's a 1 in 3 chance police will never identify your killer if you were murdered in the United States. If the sun exploded now, you wouldn't know about it for another 8 minutes. 20% of children report hearing voices. There are 40 supervolcanoes around the world capable of claiming 1 billion lives. And we are about 24,000 years overdue for an eruption. The air you breathe in train stations is 15% human skin. There are over 200 dead bodies on top of Mount Everest, because retrieving them is such a risk. They serve as markers for other hikers. When you die, your house cat is going to want to eat you. Speaking of pets, dogs like squeaky toys because they mimic the screams of their prey. Yeah, there's a lot more. Like for part 2.
I know why my dog loves the squeaky toy so much. I never knew that. Be careful when you buy your squeaky toys for your dogs now.
Insane True Stories up now.
Morbid facts about Mike Tyson, Part 2. While visiting a zoo in the late 1980s, Tyson noticed an alpha silverback gorilla bullying all the others. He offered the zookeeper 10 grand to open the gorilla cage so that he could go in there and smash that silverback's snot box. Luckily for the gorilla, the worker declined the offer. Here's a 1997 photo of Las Vegas police facing Mike Tyson after he'd just bitten off the ear of Evander Holyfield. Tyson claimed he was in a primal blacked out state and literally wanted to kill his opponent. Mike had 6 biological children, but his little girl Exodus tragically died when she was only 4 years old. In 2009, Exodus was playing on a treadmill when she accidentally died from strangulation after falling and catching her neck on a power cord. 3 years after signing with Don King, Tyson didn't even know that he had a fan club. When he finally went there, he found a letter from a woman asking if Tyson could call her dying little boy. Tyson immediately called, hung up, cursed out Don King, then started to cry. He said that the call was 1 year too late.
If you were someone that...
Man, was speaking facts about Mike Tyson. Been through a lot in his life, man. Because you guys know what happened between that Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight. How some people said they kind of didn't live up to the hype, but I guess he did what he needed to do, man. I guess to get that money.
You know has small children, please watch this video until the end because it could save their life. Basically, Boppy baby pillows are being recalled after suffocating 8 children to their end. What happened was that these 8 children were laid down to sleep on these pillows and woke up lifeless. The recall includes the original, preferred, and Pottery Barn Kids Boppy baby pillows, and if you own any of these, you can take them to a local store for a refund. These are being recalled all the way back from 2004 to September of this year, so if you own any of these from any of those years, you might be at risk. So please, never put any babies or young children to sleep in any of these, and if you know anyone with young children, please send them this video so they don't miss this life-saving information.
That's insane.
Give you hope. This woman swept out to sea while at the beach was rescued after 37 hours of drifting over 50 miles in an inflatable swim ring. Overdoses have decreased for the first time in over 5 years. This stranger saved a 4-year-old from a flying puck at a hockey game. Every country has now banned the use of leaded gasoline in cars, with Algeria being the last one a couple years ago. Bruno was able to get a fresh start and a new life after 473 days in a shelter. A study of over 2 million people found that eating cheese is healthy for aging because of the lower stress that you experience in life. The amount of sugar consumed by kids in the United Kingdom halved in 1 year after a sugar tax was introduced. Scientists have developed a glowing dye that sticks to cancer cells, which helps scientists prevent cancer from coming back. This nearly extinct pupfish has hit a 25-year high with their population. There are less than 200 of them in one single cave in the Mojave Desert of Nevada.
Here are 3 real ways to survive Ohio. The land of Ohio is a mysterious pocket dimension located within the continental United States that is widely regarded as being one of the most dangerous places known to man. With that being said, the easiest way to guarantee your survival of this state is to simply avoid visiting it altogether. This should be a relatively easy task since no one actually lives in Ohio. Remember, if you think you have family or friends to visit there, that's just the demons whispering in your ear, and those thoughts should be ignored entirely. Secondly, if you do somehow wind up in this desolate place, remember to ignore the locals at all costs. Their lonely state might inspire you to take pity on them and engage them in conversation, but be warned, if you speak to them, you will become as they are. Finally, above all else, you'll need to try and keep moving at all times in one direction. Time and space work differently in the state of Ohio, and it may feel like you've been walking in circles for hours or even days. But remember, every step that you take is a step closer to freedom. Leave a comment if you're enjoying this series, and if you know anyone from Ohio, tag them. It might help them escape.
Any of you guys know anybody from Ohio? I only know LeBron James, man. That's I do comes from Ohio, but I guess this TikTok, bro, wants us to avoid it, man. And because they be Ohio, Skippity, Riz, Gyat, whatever, man. I think it originated there, bro. Oh, man, those TikToks, bro. Probably crazy, man, in Ohio, bro. Imagine walking down the street, somebody yelling, "Gyat skibbity," bro. Oh, man. Interesting. Where is it at? They brought like a whole setup.
Did you know that Art the Clown played the Grinch in a horror movie? Yes, there is a horror slasher version of the Grinch, and it's called The Mean One. The story follows Cindy Lou Who after the Grinch kills her parents, and she grows up and she decides that she's going to make it her life's mission to kidnap the Grinch and to kill him for what he did to her. And Art the Clown himself, David Howard Thornton, plays the horror version of the Grinch, the mean one, and he brings so much personality to the character even through all of the paint and prosthetics. Like, look at these cool shot comparisons. This is the original Grinch, and here we have the horror version of the Grinch. The Mean One is definitely considered a horror comedy, so keep that in mind if you choose to watch it. It's also extremely bloody and extremely silly, which I feel like you would expect. My favorite part of the movie is when Cindy Lou Who, as a child, is being interviewed by cops to try to get an idea of what this guy looks like. The sketch artist draws the little girl's description and then in all seriousness is like, "Sweetie, is this what he looked like?" It's really funny that David Howard Thornton has gotten to play a horror version of Santa as Art the Clown, and he's also gotten to be a horror version of the Grinch. Pretty cool.
Why you should always respect Mother Nature.
You should, of course, never do what this guy did in that video, and viewer discretion advised for this one because there's no happy ending here. The man in the video that I showed you is 28-year-old Jacob Cockle. Jacob's passion was surfing and pretty much anything ocean-related, so he felt like the water was his element. This is likely why Jacob thought he would be able to best a whirlpool when it came to swimming by it. Initially, when Jacob jumped into the whirlpool, nothing went wrong. There were about 28 minutes of footage of him floating around on top, and this is because he had the safety of a wetsuit. Wetsuits trap a lot of air, they're very buoyant, and they're made out of neoprene. This particular whirlpool was not strong enough to take Jacob down when he's floating on the surface. However, Jacob made a grave mistake. At one point or another, Jacob decided that it would be a good idea to dive underwater to get more footage. This caused the buoyancy of his suit to drop, and the whirlpool became strong enough and sucked him down. Jacob was unfortunately not able to escape from the whirlpool's grasp.
Photos with disturbing backstories.
Stay out the water, man. Photos tell a story every single time, man. That's why I always pay attention to them, bro. That's an edit. She do that. We expert level now, bro.
These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. Sometimes you laugh, talk, and cry in sleep. It's often a spirit sitting beside you in bed. You are more likely to be bitten by someone in New York than to be bitten by a shark. A human head remains conscious for 20 seconds after being decapitated. If you search up this number on Google, you'll find people with their heads in fridges. Gelatin is made out of bones. That's right. The melted marshmallow in your hot chocolate is melted animal bone. It's good stuff. You have no way of really knowing if everyone experiences reality and consciousness the same way you do. If a panda finds a fresh carcass, they'll eat it. And last but not least, your phone is likely spying on you right now as you're watching this. Yeah, there's a lot more. Like for part 8.
Cover your camera on your phone, bro. You go to sleep.
Myths you still believe about Canada. Canadians see snow year-round. Well, the truth is that though the winters can be harsh, most of the country's population experiences summers that can make a Californian sweat. Most Canadians live near the Canada-US border and thus experience similar weather to what you'd expect in places like Boston or New York. Toronto is the capital of Canada. Well, Toronto does have the largest population and is probably the most famous Canadian city, but it's actually Ottawa, another Ontario city, that's the capital. As the center of political power, Queen Victoria chose Ottawa to be Canada's Canada's capital on December 31st, 1857, it was determined that with its location being on the border between Canada East and Canada West, its excellent defensive position and its access to two different rivers to cross the country in either direction, Ottawa was the perfect city for the title.
Skinwalker
okay.
On camera.
The hell is that?
Please pardon the interruption. At this time, we are going to ask that students and staff proceed to conduct an internal lockdown. I repeat, this is not a drill. Please proceed to internal lockdown. 911 has been called. Remain in internal lockdown until instructed otherwise by a uniformed officer.
Okay, guys, I need everybody right away. Back corner and down, please.
In Ohio too, what the hell?
No cell phones?
Get as close to the wall as you can, crowd it together. Marcus, get this way. Get this way. Get away from the window. Davis, hurry up. Get away from the window. Press up to these desks. Hurry up. Guys, grab these desks.
Where's Skinwalker at?
Feminine things that were originally made for men. In Persia, men wore high heels to protect their feet. Then the Europeans looked and said, let's use them too, but they did it to show that they were rich, powerful, and masculine. In their culture, the higher the heel, the more masculine you were. Bags were also made exclusively for men. This is the oldest bag ever found made for men. It is entirely decorated with dog teeth because that was the fashion of the time. A system very similar to the disposable pads we have today was originally used in World War I to stop soldiers from bleeding. That's when a nurse noticed and thought, we can put this in our underwear and we no longer need to use rags as pads. Skirts were originally worn by men throughout the history of the world.
A killer clown.
I never knew that. Our reality's blown wide open. If you would have said high heels were made for men first, I wouldn't have believed you. We learning today.
Clown was just released from prison in Florida. This case dates back to May 26, 1990, when 40-year-old Marlene Warren opened her front door. In front of her was a clown holding balloons and a basket of flowers. Marlene stated, "How nice," before the clown fatally shot her in the mouth, then calmly walked away. Authorities suspected 26-year-old Sheila Keene for years, who was having an affair with the victim's husband, Michael. But unfortunately, there wasn't enough evidence to convict her. 12 years later, Michael and Sheila wed in Las Vegas, moved to Tennessee, and started running this burger joint called the Purple Cow. They lived happily as if nothing happened, and Sheila even had the audacity to dress up as a clown one year. But in 2014, Florida authorities received a grant that allowed them to reopen the case. Advances in DNA technology allowed them to test a brown hair at the crime scene. It belonged to Sheila Keene, who was finally arrested in 2017 and pleaded not guilty. But after 7 years in jail, prosecutors gave her a deal in April of 2023. In exchange for pleading guilty to second-degree murder, she received a 12-year sentence. A Florida law allowed credit for good behavior, and that is why she was released on November 2nd of this year.
Here's a test to see if you or someone you know has thalassophobia. Thalassophobia is the fear of deep or open water. Starting off at level 1, we have this image, and if you look at the baby's feet, you can see there's nothing. And that's what freaks people out, the fact that you can't see anything but feel like there's something watching you from below. If this freaked you out, don't watch the rest, because level 2 is even worse. Level 2, we have a person falling into a huge open body of water. And to make it worse, there's some sort of squid-like creature right in the corner. At level 3, we have the worst one yet. A person floating above a huge snake-like creature that we have no idea how big it is. And if you made it this far, congrats. Make sure you send this to a friend to see if they can pass the test and hit the follow button for more.
Maps will change the way you see the world. This map shows if your county has a McDonald's or not. If you're in a red county on this map, then you do not have a McDonald's, and there are 793 counties without them. This map shows the average weekly grocery bill across each state in the United States. Wisconsin has the lowest because Midwest states have the most farming around them. Hawaii and Alaska are the highest because of their isolation from the mainland food production. This map shows how fertility rates have decreased across the entire United States over the last 20 years. Louisiana had a tiny 0.3% decrease, while Utah had an over 30% decrease in fertility. This map shows the most common transportation methods in the United States to get to work. Most people in the United States are in a green county where it is driving alone. Orange counties are where people walk the most, yellow counties are where people take taxis or motorcycles more, and the red counties are public transportation counties, which is just San Francisco and New York City.
How y'all get to work, bro? Walk, driving, public transportation. I walk, bro. I'm a walker.
Everybody's talking about this new horror movie. It's awesome. Let's watch. I haven't watched it tonight. This movie is so scary. I promise.
This is a serial killer you haven't heard of that has more victims than Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy, and Jeffrey Dahmer combined. The Sunday morning slasher. Carl Eugene Watts targeted mostly young, attractive women walking alone in the dark. He would stab, slash, strangle, and drown them. Watts told a psychiatrist that they had evil eyes. And it wasn't enough to murder these women, he had to kill their spirits too, by burning personal items or tossing them in a sewer. His first victim was 19-year-old Gloria Steele, a mother and college student who was stabbed 33 times in her apartment. Michigan authorities knew he was responsible for dozens of murders, but they never had enough evidence to convict him. In 1982, Watts fled to Texas and resumed his murders, killing at least 12 more, including the youngest victim, 14-year-old Emily Lacroix. Now let's get to the moment he was finally caught. On May 23, 1982, Carl Watts choked Lori Lister until she was unconscious, then dragged her up the apartment steps. He used her keys to open the door and came face to face with Lori's roommate, Melinda Aguilar. Melinda was choked by Carl Watts as well, but this time she pretended to black out. He bound her hands behind her back and put her in a separate bedroom, while he filled up a bathtub where he planned to drown Lori Lister. With her hands still bound behind her back, Melinda quietly locked the bedroom door and proceeded to jump off a second-story balcony, where she yelled at a woman who was drinking coffee outside to call police. Unfortunately, Texas prosecutors offered immunity to Watts for the 13 murders he confessed to, in exchange for a 60-year sentence. Oddly enough, he was almost released from prison in 2006, but Michigan authorities were able to convict him of 2 murders before that could happen, and he died in prison in 2007 from prostate cancer.
Creepy facts that'll give you nightmares. When
justice.
anglerfish mate, the male literally fuses itself into the female and the two live together as one fish for the rest of their lives. I'm kinda concerned as to how we know this, but if you feed a human body to pigs, they eat every last bit of it. There's a place near Mexico City called the Island of the Dolls. This place is home to thousands of dolls that are there to honor a girl who drowned in the 1950s. Many people say that this place is one of the most haunted places on Earth. And finally, this is Mike the Chicken. After Mike's head got chopped off, he somehow managed to live a full 1.5 years headless.
Creepy facts I bet you didn't know, part 1. Your lips and anus are connected by the same tube. 90% of serial killers choose their victims by sexual desire. Your organs move freely around your body. Crows used to follow armies to feed on dead bodies. Human sacrifice was a real thing in Aztec Mexico.
Whoa. Bombarded with information, man.
Scariest mythical creatures from around the world, part 2. The Jersey Devil. The Jersey Devil is a legendary creature found in Pine Branch, South Jersey. It is known to look exactly like a giant flying goat, having an extremely long neck, massive wings, extremely short legs, and of course a tail as sharp as a sword. Don't forget to like and follow for a part 3.
Disturbing facts that will ruin your childhood, part 2. This little girl here is Judith Barcy. She played Ducky in Land Before Time. She also played Anne Marie in All Dogs Go to Heaven. In 1988, she was shot in the head by her own father. He also did the same thing to her mother. After that, he doused the bodies in gasoline, then proceeded to set them on fire. He then shot himself in the head, and that's how the story ends. Her gravestone says yup yup yup, which is a quote from her character in the Land Before Time movies.
The creepiest places in the world. Gate to Hell, Turkmenistan. It's been burning for past 40 years, and no one knows when it's going to stop.
Lake Natron, Tanzania.
Due to high levels of salt contents, everything that touches the lake turns to pure stone.
Mythical creatures caught on camera. Unicorn.
Or these could be edits, high quality edits.
Fairy.
I'm gonna have to call cap on this one. That's definitely a cat, bro. It's high quality. I give him that though. Imagine how the world would react if that was a real drag.
Mermaid. Phoenix.
Is that bird on fire? Yeah. Okay. What do you think about those video seekers? I think the only one that probably got to me was the mermaid one, because I think they're truly are probably mermaids, man. We just haven't seen them yet. Maybe sirens or whatever they're called, man.
Scary facts you didn't know were real, part 4. Most people agree that dying in your sleep is probably the best way to go. Peaceful, no signs of pain, no torture. Some say that an angel will pick you up and carry you to heaven while you're asleep. But sometimes angels can be clumsy and they can drop you. Remember the times you've been falling in your sleep and then you just randomly wake up? Makes sense to the whole hell on earth thing. Did you know that after sitting in a dimly lit room for 10 minutes, your brain will get so bored that it will literally start scaring you? Monsters in your reflection, your brain just completely playing tricks on you. This causes you to see imagery like Bloody Mary. That's why people do the Bloody Mary challenge in a completely pitch black room. And it doesn't happen right away because it's your brain literally playing tricks on you. Once upon a time, legends say that a little girl drowned in a canal, completely surrounded by an uninhabited island in Mexico. Today, some are even hung by trees. Now the area is nicknamed the Island of Dolls. That's fucking scary. A little girl drowned there, people have killed themselves there, and now it's called the Island of Dolls. I'll definitely pass on that one. Like and follow for more facts.
The most insane rulers in history, part 2. Ivan IV, aka Ivan the Terrible, was Tsar of Russia between 1547 and 1548. Abuse as a child gave way to mental illness as an adult, and Ivan began torturing small animals. In 1544, at only 14, he seized control of Russia by feeding the head of the government to a pack of dogs. He then began massacring his own people and even killed his oldest son himself. He would apologize publicly for his cruel actions and then immediately turn around and do something even worse. Prince Sado lived in Korea between 1735 and 1762. After being sick with measles at 17, he began acting violently, abusing his servants and attacking women. He began murdering on a whim and even began stalking his own sister, which was the point that the king had enough. To prevent the prince from spreading any more terror, the king had him locked in a rice chest where he spent 8 days until he eventually died.
Some of these those rulers, man. Like I said, lost in history, bro. I'm learning new things every single day watching you guys secrets. Goes to show you, man, how if you mess with somebody at a freaking young age, their childhood, it truly shapes the person they became. Look what happened.
Story about the children on the bus. One night a man was on a bus on his way home from work. He thought he was the only person on the bus until he heard children's voices coming from behind him. He was listening to their conversation and was very interested. The two young boys were talking about a ghost story. They were saying, and if you turn around, the ghost will snatch you away and carry you to the underworld. The man recognized the boy's voice. He often seen the kids on the same bus on his way home from work every day. They attended a school nearby. Then the other boy was saying, "That's easy then. All you have to do is make sure you don't turn around." "Yeah," said the first boy. "But the thing is, you can't help but turn around. The ghost would try all sorts of tricks to make you turn around." The man then realized they were getting close to their stop. However, it looked like they didn't notice. When the bus stopped, the kids were still talking. The man thought he should warn them that they're gonna miss their stop, so he turned around to tell them. The man was never seen again.
Turned around. They told him don't turn around. It's a story if he was listening to it. Creepy bus story, bro. Sounds legit to me.
I'm gonna ruin Ruin Your Childhood, Part 1. The original Wizard of Oz movie is actually considered to be cursed because of all the horrific things that happened during filming. The main character, Dorothy, who was played by Judy Garland, was actually drugged and molested during filming. She was given adrenaline shots so that she could stay up more than 48 hours at a time. And there are reports that she was sexually assaulted by the Munchkin actors and studio executives. The actress who played the Wicked Witch got horrifically burned on set. During the scene where the witch escapes Munchkin Land in a plume of smoke, the pyrotechnic team set off the explosion a little too early. It caused the witch's broom, hat, and makeup to catch on fire. The medics had to rub alcohol all over the burns to remove the makeup, which was extremely painful. And the snow that you see in the movie was actually a lethal chemical called asbesto, which causes cancer.
This is the worst thing that ever happened at a concert. In 2003, the band Great White was performing live when pyrotechnics went off as planned. But within moments, everything took a horrifying turn. Flames erupted as the foam on the stage and walls caught fire, spreading faster than anyone could react. While the band managed to escape through the back exits, hundreds of audience members were left in chaos, desperately trying to find their way out. Thick smoke quickly filled the venue and people scrambled toward the front entrance, creating a wall of bodies as they clambered over each other in a desperate bid to survive. In the video of the incident, you can see people screaming and getting crushed to death. The situation spiraled as people became trapped, some crushed under the weight of others. And survivors described the scenes of half-burned victims being pulled out from the flames. Outside in the snow, survivors tried to help by rubbing snow onto the burned. But the devastation was immense. By the end, 100 people had tragically lost their lives, and over 200 were injured in one of the most heartbreaking concert disasters in history.
This skull was found inside the wall of a house in Illinois, and it turns out that it belonged to a woman that passed away more than 150 years ago. In 1978, James Scare was doing renovations on his home when he came across a skull behind the wall. He called police and they took the skull to further investigate. They knew it belonged to a woman, but could not identify who this person was until recently. In February 2024, with the help of genetic genealogy, they finally determined that the skull belonged to a 17-year-old woman named Esther Granger. Esther was born on October 6, 1848 in Indiana, and at 16 she got married, then pregnant, but passed away from complications after giving birth to her daughter in 1866. She was buried in a grave in Illinois, and her daughter was named after her. Now you're probably wondering, how in the world did Esther's skull randomly appear inside this man's wall in a completely different state? Well, even though investigators are not 100% certain, their theory is that Esther was a victim of grave robbing. Grave robbing is when someone digs up a grave and takes the body of a deceased person to often sell them to medical schools for research purposes. This was pretty common in that era since it was very profitable and there was a high demand for research and education. After searching for a family related to Esther, they found a man named Wayne, who's also a retired police officer in Portland, and he happens to be Esther's great-great-grandson.
This is the creepy story.
That's so disrespectful, man. People, they go on in their graves, man, just for some money. And then, like she said, it was in that era, bro. It's like, goes to show you, even back in the day, man, people were doing wild things in the world. Grave robbing.
Story about the stare. A girl was on the subway late at night when she noticed a woman staring at her intensely. The woman was sitting between two old men. The girl kept looking away, but the woman staring never broke eye contact. It started to freak the girl out. At the next stop, a tall man in a trench coat boarded. He sat down right next to the girl. The woman who was staring paid no attention to the man who just boarded and just kept staring at the girl. Now this really creeped out the girl. The two men that the woman was sitting between never once looked in her direction. The girl then pretended not to notice, but each time she looked, the woman was still staring at her. At the next stop, the man in the trench coat got up to leave when suddenly he grabbed the girl's arm and dragged her out of the subway. The doors shut and the subway took off. The girl then started screaming for help, but then the man said, "Calm down. I just saved your life. I didn't mean to scare you, but I had to get you off that subway." The woman that was staring at you was dead, and the two men beside her were holding her up.
Oh, so he was a lifesaver then. Good people in the world, man, watching out for you, looking out for you. She didn't pick up on that.
family was recording their reunion, having dinner, when they accidentally captured something disturbing outside. Useless Sanguera was with his family at Argentina's Matias Hotel, enjoying a poolside dinner, when he decided to film the moment. As the family's enjoying their dinner, little did they know something horrifying would be captured.
See that?
As he pans the camera across the table, he sees this eerie pale person just standing there in the dark woods. Now, this could be just another guest staying at the hotel, but after zooming in, things get weirder. The figure doesn't seem to have any facial features, just a black mouth opening as the man zooms in on it. Not wanting to find out who or what this could be, the family finished their dinner and rushed back to their room. Sanguero mentions he has no idea if what he saw that night was even human.
Yo, what's up?
What was
Here's
that?
some scary facts about our world that you probably didn't want to know. Part 45. Egyptian mummies would still be considered one of the rarest artifacts to find up to date, if medieval Europeans hadn't consumed a majority of the dead mummies' bodies, because they believed back then that if you consumed embalmed dead bodies, that it would actually heal your ailments. Please do not try this next one, but it is actually possible that you can convince somebody who has no history of mental illness in their family that they have a severe mental illness in roughly only a week. Please do not try to convince your brother that he has schizophrenia. That would not be a good idea, and it would not end up well. Throughout the filming of The Exorcist, you hear the possessed girl let out multiple demonic screams, but little did you know that those screams weren't humanly possible, and they were actually the sounds of squealing pigs who were being taken to a slaughterhouse. And last but certainly not least, it is said that people who practice the religion of Zoroastrianism actually leave dead bodies up in towers so that vultures can consume their remains. To us it may seem a little strange, but to them it's actually a sign of respect. But when I die, please don't put my body in a tower so I can be eaten by vultures. It's just not my thing.
That was an insane case, man. All those freaking loopholes to protect them. What's wrong? I think that's the edit.
I think this could be the strangest disappearance I have ever heard. This 19-year-old Jason Jolkowski, and in 2001 he was living at home in Omaha, Nebraska with his family, very normal life. And it was a summer day, June 13th, where something very disturbing took place right off his street. Jason wasn't supposed to work this day, but he got called into work, and it was a place called Fazoli's. It's kind of just like a fast casual Italian place, but the problem was he didn't have his car that day. He had no transportation. This manager who made a couple of calls, and he arranged for one of the co-workers to go and pick up Jason at the nearby high school. For context, it's a very short walk from his house. It's quite literally only a few blocks. Problem was, Jason never showed. He had somehow completely vanished during this walk. He only could have gone so many ways. So one of the most logical was that he was going to take Bedford. It's a street with a lot of foot traffic, so people assumed that somebody would have seen him. An alternate option where maybe he took a couple of back roads to get to the high school. But again, what's known is that he never made it, and no one has ever found what happened to him, and nobody saw or heard what went down. Looking for more of a deep dive on this story, I'm probably going to cover it on The Sinister.
Terrifying facts you
happened?
never knew. If your immune system ever found out that you have eyeballs, you would go blind. Which means right now your immune system has no clue that you can see. Because if it did, they would attack your eyeballs until you can no longer ever see. This is because your eyeballs have a protein in them called crystalline that doesn't exist anywhere else in your body. So if your immune system found out and checked them out, it would be like, something's wrong here. Studies show that most serial killers are born in November. Today's high school students have the same anxiety levels as insane asylum patients had in the 1950s. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, my anxiety might be up there too. There's a disease called fatal familial insomnia, where people suddenly one day lose their ability to fall asleep, which leads them to slowly go insane. They can't distinguish dreams from reality anymore and go into some type of paranoia. It becomes so severe that they eventually die. Those that make it to the final stage and don't die usually end up in a vegetative state, no longer conscious. And it can happen to any one of you. About 3,000 people go missing every year in the United States. The last execution by guillotine was in 1977. This was in France. And also that was the same year the first Star Wars movie came out. You are always 6 minutes away from death, but breathing resets the clock. In 2011, Anatoly Yakovich was arrested for having 12 dolls in his apartment. Only problem is, They weren't normal dolls. They were recently deceased little girls that had been dug up and dressed to be put on display. In 2012, a Burger King employee anonymously posted this to 4chan. It said, "This is the lettuce you eat at Burger King." It only took 20 minutes for people to track down the branch that he worked at, and he was fired. You really never know what people are doing to your food. H.H. Holmes was a serial killer who built a torture hotel in the 19th century. He had secret rooms with gas chambers, trap doors, and stairs that led to nowhere. He loved to play with his victims' minds. It was almost like a real-life Saw movie. There's a bridge in Scotland called the Overtoun Bridge, and for some reason, dogs keep jumping off of it at the same spot. Yeah, they just jump to their deaths. Experts can't figure out why either. Some people speculate it's a magnetic field, or maybe a frequency that only they can hear, but others believe it's something supernatural. But whatever is making dogs jump off that bridge to their deaths is still to this day unexplained. Joe Matheny was an infamous serial killer who not only cooked his victims to eat for himself, but also made them into burgers, using their remains. He then sold them to unsuspecting customers from a roadside food stand. We really never know what he is. I'm cooking all my food myself, because why don't we eat over people's house? In 2021, a new homeowner was shocked to find a boarded up wall. When he ripped the boards off the wall, he discovered a hole. In that hole was a doll clutching a note. The note saying that she killed a family who lived there in the 1960s. Be honest, would you move out? In 1978, there was a pilot named Frederick Valentin. Him and his plane disappeared in Australia. His last communication was, "Melbourne, that strange aircraft is hovering above me again." It is hovering, and it is not an aircraft. This is a mugshot of William West and William West. Oh, and they're not related at all, but they were both sent to Leavenworth Prison at the exact same time in 1903. And after some confusion, the staff finally figured out they were two different people who had the exact same name and looked identical. This was said to be one of the main reasons why we now use fingerprints to identify somebody. There's biotech being developed as we speak that can make prisoners feel they are serving an 1,000-year sentence in a matter of 8 hours. That's horrifying. Imagine thinking you spent 1,000 years somewhere, and then when you wake up and snap out of it, you realize that it was only a couple hours. Do you know how crazy that is? Anyways, like this video if you want to part
to surgery to try to fix a condition, but you actually come out looking much worse. Well, that's exactly what happened to 29-year-old Kayla Cannon. She was born with congenital ptosis, which is basically a condition where your eyes droop, and she wanted to fix this problem, so she went to a specialist, and then she came out looking like this. Kayla decided to get this procedure done with Dr. Harvey Chip Cole, who's located in Atlanta. This doctor made a ton of mistakes during this procedure, one of them being removing half of her eyelids, which caused a lot of tightness and left her looking like this. After the botched surgery, Kayla had a serious infection and could barely close her eyes because of how tight they were. And she had to undergo 7 additional surgeries to correct the damage, and she was left with these permanent scars. Kayla's devastated because she feels like she went through this procedure only to look worse than what she did, and this is the first time that this doctor did something like this. This is another patient who was also botched, and she came out right after Kayla spoke out about this doctor, and the crazy thing about this is that he is still practicing.
How is he still practicing after two botched surgeries, bro? They tried to get that to, I guess, they wanted to fix themselves, or they just wanted to look better, I guess, for their self-esteem, and look what happened. Don't trust these surgeons out here, seekers.
Telling you that nobody ever saw something. Not one of these people heard or saw something that they shouldn't have heard or seen. None of these celebrities knew what Diddy was doing. I mean, it's frankly very hard to believe. Everyone's been around that friend who gets a little too drunk and says something that they shouldn't. So you're telling me that P. Diddy never got too drunk, too high, too whatever, maybe even too comfortable around some of his elite friends and never said anything about what he was doing? I mean, for decades, P. Diddy has been a hardcore sexual predator, running a massive sex trafficking operation that has involved many, many minors. And still, nobody ever heard or saw a single thing? I mean, with the amount of parties that P. Diddy was having and the people that he was inviting, these seemed like pretty big events that he would have to prepare for all the time. And it seems like one person in his organization would tell somebody something, right? Well, I guess not. We should just trust all of these people because they will always tell us the truth. At least, that's what we're told to do. But I don't buy it. Somebody saw something. And I think that there's a silence in Hollywood because not only are people complicit in this stuff, but there had to have been many, many dozens, if not hundreds of others who saw the signs, who saw the victims leaving P. Diddy's place, who were told things over drunken or stoned conversations, who just sat idly by the side and did nothing. And honestly, it doesn't get more disturbing than that. Just food for thought.
That one get taken down.
Found in people's houses, part 1. Up first, a married couple moved into a new house when they decided to rip up the carpet and get a new one. But what they found underneath the carpet is absolutely terrifying. Underneath the carpet was a pentagram, which is a symbol of the devil and devil worshippers. This is extremely scary because the previous homeowners were definitely doing satanic rituals. Next up, a homeowner decided to move a mirror in his house when he discovered a camera behind it. There was a specific hole cut in the wall for the camera to fit, making you think whoever put it there did it to spy on the people living in the house. This is so chilling and disturbing, I would immediately move out.
Yeah, especially at the first house. Saw that pentagon? I'm out. Deuces, bro. That property is cursed, man. We definitely out.
Sea monsters are real, and there's a big one under the ocean. Let me explain. Bangladesh legend talks about an eel longer than eternity with a head the size of a town that could swallow up entire armies. They called it Anantashesha, but after strange evidence surfaced, officials got involved. But every attempt to study this monster was a catastrophic failure. Visions of eyes in the darkness haunted anyone swimming in the area, even long after they had gone home. Those that have seen the eel say it oozes a mysterious goop in the water that drives you to pure insanity. Tests were then run on the fluid and found it could be used as a powerful sedative and memory-wiping amnesia serum, amnestics. Though its full length has never been observed, it's theorized to be about 1 megameter in length, or roughly the size of France. Big water noodle. However, right now it is fully motionless, with studies saying that it's currently sleeping, meaning you could swim right up to the thing until it wakes up. See, this isn't just an Antashesha. This is SCP-3000.
This is the last photo of Chris Creepers, a Dutch tourist that went to Panama on a jungle hike with their friend in 2014. The mystery of their disappearance still remains unsolved today, so let's talk about what we know. So this photo was taken on April 1st, 2014. When the parents of Lisanne Froon, the friend that came with her, and Chris Creamer's parents stopped receiving updates, they got worried and traveled to Panama to find their daughters. They were accompanied by police when they arrived on April 6th, and they scoured the forest for 10 days trying to find their daughters. Now, after about 10 weeks or 2.5 months, a woman turned in a blue backpack belonging to Froon. It had a camera and a phone in it. Creamer's phone was turned on intermittently between April 5th and 11th with the incorrect PIN being entered. Froon's phone died on April 4th. What they found in the photographs was disturbing. 90 flash photographs were taken intermittently between 1 and 4 a.m. One of the last photos had Creamer's hair with blood all over it, and it was a photo of the back of her head. 2 months after the back were turned in, they discovered some bones. They found a pelvis bone and a foot bone, and upon analysis, it belonged to Froon and Creamer. It's even weirder, upon all of the bones and the findings they found, there are no discernible marks of trauma or any marks on their bones at all. So it's still a mystery on how they might have died. And it still remains unsolved 10 years later today. Froon's bones appear to have skin on it still, and then Creamer's bones appear to have been bleached. Because of the cleanliness of this scene, I don't think an animal got to them. That was my initial thought on reading this story. I think somebody who does this a lot got to them. Because somebody did this very swift and clean, and they really left no evidence to be found. This story is one of those cases that keep me up at night. Let me know what you guys think about this case in the comment section below, and as always, these videos are for informational purposes only.
Here are some
That'll
news
keep me up
you
at night.
actually want to hear. Alright, firstly, Spain has pre-approved a law that gives pets equal rights as humans. So by law, if you see a pet on the street, you have to treat them the same way as a child. Next, do you all remember the Success Kid meme? Well, from this meme going viral, this young boy was actually able to pay for his father's kidney transplant that was over $100,000. Now, believe it or not, but archaeologists actually found the real tomb of Santa Claus. And yeah, it might not be the Santa Claus you're thinking of, but the original one. His coffin was found under a Turkish church. Moving on, Portugal has made it illegal for bosses to contact employers after work hours. When is this going to go global? Finally, the dodo bird went extinct in the 17th century. However, after a DNA breakthrough, scientists say this bird could come back to life in the next couple of years.
I'm kind of iffy about the last one, especially with the dodo bird. When you mess with the ecosystem like that, you don't know how that can affect everything else, man. It went extinct. Just let it lie. I don't like when they be messing with the laws of nature.
Just a cigarette and it cannot be that bad.
Honey, don't you love me? And you know it makes me sad.
Just a cigarette like you always used to do.
I was different then. I don't need them to be cool.
Weird
I
facts
remember
you
Chris
did not
Wallace
know
one.
about. In 1981, 3 young men found the murdered body of a woman laying in a roadside ditch in Ohio. She was known as the Buckskin Girl because of the poncho she'd been wearing, but police struggled to identify her for decades. That was until 37 years later, in 2018, when DNA analysis identified her as hitchhiker Marcia King. Her mother had still been living in the same house, with the same phone number, never giving up hope that her daughter may return home one day. Marcia's murder remains unsolved, but the case is still open. In a form of doping known as boosting, wheelchair athletes with spinal injuries will sometimes intentionally injure themselves. Below the waist, they cause their bodies to respond by raising blood pressure, thus enhancing their performance. Techniques include clamping down on a catheter to overfill the bladder, breaking toe bones, and administering electric shocks to the legs, feet, and testicles. Boosting has been completely banned by the International Paralympic Committee since 1994.
This is the story of the Silent Man.
Interesting.
In 2014, a 51-year-old man in the UK named David Hampson decided to stand in the middle of a busy road and block the traffic. The incident was then reported and police officers arrived at the scene to see what was going on. But when they tried to talk to David to get him to move, he wouldn't say a word and just stood there, so they arrested him. From his arrest to when he was brought to court, David still remained completely silent and wouldn't even talk to his lawyer. Although since no one knew his motives and he hadn't actually hurt anyone, David was let go soon afterwards. But all he did was just go back to that same street and stand there, silent, once again. And he committed this same crime over and over again for the next 7 years, never saying a word to anyone. Even though he was jailed multiple times, every time he was released, he would just go back to that same street and do the exact same thing. All the doctors who had tried to help David failed because he refused to speak to them. And it was reported that the only time anyone had ever heard him speak was when he was giving food and water, and he said thanks. Finally, in 2020, David was given 3.5 years in prison for his actions and is still yet to speak to anyone on why he did it.
Why was he silent, bro? Why was he not talking? That's the real question we need to be asking. He got 3
Here are the creepiest things kids have ever said. And before I tell you these, I feel like I'm obliged to say, I'm so sorry. First up, we've got monster under the bed. One night, a young girl couldn't sleep because apparently there was something under her bed. And when her parents came into the room to say go back to sleep because there's nothing under her bed, she replied with, I know. He's behind you now. Like, I'm sorry. Next up, a 4-year-old girl was found in the bathroom by her mum with all of her Barbies. She was making them float face down in the bath. When the mum asked what she was doing, she replied with, the man in the wardrobe told me if I didn't do it, it would be my turn to swim face down. Next up, a 3-year-old boy was softly singing in a room while colouring in a picture. His mum actually stopped to listen because she'd never heard the song before. When she asked where he learnt it, he said the lady in my bedroom sang it to me. And finally, a 5-year-old asked his mum when he was going to be 23. His mum said in 18 years' time, and he replied with, well, I hope I don't die again, as that was how old I was the last time I went to heaven. Tell me which story made you go, what the fuck the most? And share this with friends, just creep them out because you're a good person. Now everyone with me. Elon!
The last one for sure. Blew my
5
mind.
days ago, these 2 girls made a TikTok saying they found a dead body in the morning. But the thing is, they weren't lying. 2 girls from Texas, aged 17 and 16, made a Snapchat of them stealing jewelry off of the dead body of a man they found in a drainage ditch. In the video, Bethany Martin, the 17-year-old, took the necklace off of the man's corpse and gave it to her friend who was recording. The younger teen told police that she put the medallion on her own gold necklace because it matched her fashion style. Both girls have been charged with theft to a human corpse, and police believe the man's death was a suicide.
If y'all saw that, why would you take the duty seekers? You gotta call that in report, man. Why do people just think about themselves, man? This world nowadays is just unbelievable to think about.
True Horrifying Story Part 30. This story took place in Medina, Saudi Arabia in the year 2001. And the person who said this story is Dr. Yasser Qadi. He's someone that is known in the community of the Islamic Da'iyas. There are exorcists from all religions, Muslims, Christians, and Jewish. And their job is to perform an exorcism session on a person who is possessed by a demon or a jinn. When Dr. Yasser was a student, he studied in Medina. There was a known exorcist that practiced ruqya for many years, and Dr. Yasser wanted to learn from him. Back at the dorm of the Islamic college, there was a student that is a fresh convert, just recently converted to Islam. He barely knows anything about the religion, small bits of the Quran, does not know the ahadith, and doesn't know the big scholars in Islam. One day, the students were reading Quran out loud back at the dorm, and this new convert student starts to scream and roll on the ground. They knew he was possessed, so they called Dr. Yasser. Now remember, Dr. Yasser was still a student back then. He was not an expert in exorcism. He goes there and has a 2-hour session of ruqya, the ruqya that he recently learned, trying to kick out the demon out of this kid's body. As he reads Quran, he would see an alien-like movement on the kid's body. His skin would ripple up and down. A human being cannot do this intentionally. He would follow the movement with his hands reading the Quran, and he would see it move somewhere else. After the session was over, the kid looked fine, and they got lunch for everyone to eat. They say Bismillah, and they ask the new convert to join them for lunch. He said, "I'm not hungry, it's okay." As they were eating, one of the students drops a piece of his food on the ground and ignores it. The convert student immediately jumps like a snake, picks it up and gobbles it down with his left hand. Dr. Yasser lets the food go and gets up, knowing that this kid is still possessed. He tries to intimidate this demon by shouting, "I'm gonna bring Sheikh bin Uthaymeen to read on you." Now, Sheikh bin Uthaymeen is a huge Islamic scholar, and he passed away around that time in January 2001. This kid laughs hysterically with a raspy demonic voice. He gets up and he asks, "Are you going to bring him back from the dead?" This is when they all realize that this wasn't a human entity that spoke. How can this new convert know who Sheikh bin Uthaymeen is? And why would he say he's not hungry but ate food that dropped on the ground? And how was his skin rippling? Jinns can harm you, and the harm is tangible. This is not a joke. Being possessed is very real. Even to exorcists, it's very dangerous, and only people with very strong faith can do it.
Creepiest home camera footage.
Learning.
In 2017, a mother in Billings, Montana woke up in the middle of the night to a notification on her phone. Her phone was synced to a baby monitor she had set up in her infant daughter's room. On this night, upon being alerted, she opened the app expecting to see her daughter awake in the crib. But instead she saw this. A man she didn't know is seen crouched down in the room. She saw this and ran to the room to retrieve her daughter and run out the house. She didn't see anyone in the room but wasn't exactly looking. When she called the cops, they arrived and conducted a search of the home but didn't find anything. A very odd detail is that it was found that nothing but the remote to a dog show collar was stolen from the house. Who this man is and how he got in the house is still unknown.
Be careful. You never know, man, who's in there lurking. She got her daughter and ran out. Smart move.
Submechanophobia is a fear of human-made objects submerged in water, and this could be partially or entirely underwater. So something like a ride where the animatronics come in and out of the water would trigger this. Some of the popular imagery associated with this fear comes from a Japanese folklore park, where a trio of river monsters rise out of a pond. Someone with this fear also may not like the idea of an underwater shipwreck. They may even not like the idea of a buoy. A part of submechanophobia is that people are scared that they could get stuck next to or underneath the underwater object, or that something more dangerous might emerge out of the foreign object, like a body or something, especially if the object is old and abandoned. This could also maybe lead you to believe that it is haunted.
Yeah. You guys had that fear of objects in the water? I think I'm okay with that.
I have a few more pieces of information to add to the video that I made about missing aspiring LA actress Chanel Banks. This is coming up on your For You page and you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch the video, but also Here's the synopsis. 36-year-old Chanel Banks has been missing since before Halloween. Her cousin is looking for her. Her husband has not been very cooperative. He says he tracked her AirPods to Texas. Police went to Texas. They found someone who says they are Chanel. The body cam footage was seen by the cousin, and she says it is not Chanel. Anyways, the cousin has made a GoFundMe. I think it is for private investigative services and also for the cost of living and eating and stuff while she is in LA, because she does not live in LA. But in the description of this GoFundMe, there's some other information that I thought was important to go over. So it does say their last contact with her was October 30. However, 2 welfare checks were performed on November 7th and 2 more on November 8th. I don't know what triggered those welfare checks, but keep that date in mind, November 7th. So Danielle says that on November 10th, so only a few days later, my aunt, she says, which I'm assuming is Chanel's mom, and I were able to get into the apartment. So very quick after they realized something was wrong. The only items we did not locate are her phone and laptop. She also does not have her vehicle because it's parked in her garage. Now, at the very bottom here, it says, we noticed on November 10th, that is when they arrived. November 10th, they noticed that her husband had a busted lip and marks and scratches on his neck and arms. Police were called on November 10th, and they took pictures of his injuries, which he did not have 2 days ago when police did the last welfare check. The husband says she does not want to be found. She will reach out when she's ready. He claims he doesn't know where she is. He says he hasn't seen or heard from her since November 7th. Remember, that was when the first welfare check was called in. But LAPD have told us because there's no signs of foul play, there's nothing they can do. And also that they're going to hire a private investigator. I have so many thoughts about this, and unfortunately none of them are positive. And it just makes me sick to my stomach hearing these details, knowing how so many of these cases pan out. And I feel like this one is just checking all of the boxes. Red flag, red flag, red flag. First off, if someone's going to go somewhere and they don't want to be found, why would they not take their car? Second, why would they only take their phone and laptop and not their wallet, their purse, their dog? I also really, really want to know the path that those AirPods took. He says he tracked them to Texas. Did they happen to go through any postal service locations? Did they travel on a highway? That would be very helpful information. There's so many other things that I could say about this, but I'm going to leave it at that. Let me know what you think.
As promised,
That's insane, man.
Accused of protecting this sorry excuse of a man, please meet the still practicing attorney accused of purchasing a 13-year-old girl in 2022. Karel Benjamin Skuman is 35 years old and appeared today in the Johannesburg High Court, pleading not guilty to the multiple charges, 26 to be precise, against him. He is currently the co-accused in a horrific trial detailing gross negligence and abuse of minors. The mother of the girl in question, 38 years old, has also pled not guilty to the charges laid before her. The trial, however, will resume on the 4th of November, where she will continue with her plea, seeing as there's 73 charges against her. Skuman is still out on bail of 30,000 rand following his 2023 arrest. According to media sources, he is still registered as an attorney practicing under CBS Attorney. The Legal Practice Council, however, has also confirmed that there are 3 active complaints against him, none of which are connected to this case. As the trial continues next week, I'll be sure to keep you updated. And for those asking, yes, I will be covering this case in depth and in detail on my channel once the trial has concluded. Until the next one, Bella out.
The popular girls at school befriended this quiet, nerdy girl who ended up unaliving them. Christine Paula was diagnosed with alopecia, so she was bald and had to wear wigs. She also had to wear these really thick glasses, so her appearance made her the target of relentless bullying. She even had to change schools and started attending Clear Lake High School, where the bullying continued. 2 of the more popular girls in school, Rachel and Tiffany, noticed that Christine was being bullied and befriended her. And they gave her one of those early 2000 movie style makeovers, you know, when they take off the nerdy girl's glasses and realize she was beautiful all alone. The makeover was so drastic that Christine was voted Miss Irresistible by her classmates, the same ones that were just bullying her. Christine, Rachel, and Tiffany were best friends. They did everything together, but unfortunately Rachel and Tiffany were a year older than Christine, so when they graduated, Christine was back to not really having any other friends. so she kind of fell into the wrong crowd. It was also around the same time that Christine started dating 21-year-old Chris Snyder. The two had like a really toxic relationship and started abusing hard substances together. And Tiffany and Rachel did not like their friend's new boyfriend. They like weren't into hard substances. They would occasionally be at parties where like lettuce would be floating around, but the stuff that Christine and Chris were doing was much harder. So on July 18th, 2003, 17-year-old Christine and 21-year-old Chris planned to go to Tiffany's house just to steal some lettuce, but instead started shooting at everyone that was in the house. The couple fired at least 40 rounds, unaliving Rachel, Tiffany, Tiffany's boyfriend Marcus, and his cousin Dee. And this massacre would go unsolved for years, until an anonymous tip came in that led the investigators to the names Chris Snyder and Christine Palula. And no one wanted to believe that Christine could be involved in any way. I mean, she was supposed to be Tiffany and Rachel's best friend. Like, it didn't make any sense, but it was sadly true. Christine was found and brought into custody at a motel that she was hiding out at that was filled with hundreds of needles, and she was sentenced to life in prison. Chris Snyder was never able to be brought to justice because he unalived himself when he found out that the police were finally after him. Christine never apologized or gave any motive to why she unalived her best friends, even though Tiffany and Rachel were the first people to ever show her any kindness. Now it's widely believed that she was just bitterly jealous of them because of how effortlessly beautiful and popular they were. Let me know all of your thoughts, theories, questions, and case suggestions in the comments.
This is
jealousy. It drives you to do unspeakable things, man. We witnessed that firsthand. If you have that in your heart, just let it go.
Probably one of the most chilling unsolved cases I've ever come across. This is Christine Walters, and in 2008 she was a student at the University of Wisconsin. She was a good student, and she had a very pleasant way about her. It was very easy for Christine to make friends, and she just had this personality that would draw people in. Recently, Christine had started looking into the more spiritual side of things and had started teaching yoga and Pilates and was going to more health store foods and just looking at a more holistic way of taking care of her body, if that makes sense. So in 2008, she decided that she wanted to go spend some time in Portland, Oregon with a few of her friends. She had planned to stay there for 3 weeks and bought a two-way ticket. But towards the end of this trip, Christine decided that she had fallen in love with the area and wanted to stay a little bit longer to explore a little more. Christine was also becoming more and more involved in a group called Green Life Evolutions, and this group has since been disbanded because many people believed it to be a cult. Christine decides to stay on the East Coast, and in September of 2008 she moves to Humboldt County, California. At the beginning of this trip, Christine would call her family frequently, keeping in touch with them often, letting them know what was going on. But as time went on, she would call less and less, and she also wasn't working as much, so this would often lead her to call her family occasionally to get some money. Her dad would even send her $1,000, but this would remain completely untouched in her bank account. A few weeks before Christine disappeared, she called her mother, and allegedly this was a concerning phone call. Like, her mom was really worried about her and asked her to come back, but Christine told her mother that she was going to be just fine and decided to stay longer. Then on November 7th of 2008, Christine takes part in a cleansing ceremony where they all drink ayahuasca-infused tea. For those that don't know, ayahuasca is not a legal substance here in the United States, and it is a hallucinogenic. Christine stays with the group of people who were part of this cleansing ceremony until November 11th of 2008. That's when she leaves Arcata, California, because that's where this all took place. It was in the morning hours of November 11th, 2008 that Christine shows up on a couple's property on their front porch. She has scratches all over her body, and her feet are basically raw from running through the woods all night long. She was covered in blood. But not only that, she was scared and completely nude. Christine was taken to the hospital, and there she told doctors and police that she was running from demons who were chasing her. We'll get into more in part 2. It'll be down in the comments.
Gotta find part 2 to that story, bro. Sounds like there's some twists and turns coming up. You guys, seekers, if you guys made it with me to the end of the video, you're a true seeker seeking the truth. I really appreciate the support. Make sure you guys comment down below. Hit that thumbs up button on this video. Follow me on all my social medias. You guys are going to catch you in the next one. I'm out. Peace, YouTube.